Hello, and thank you for spending the time to watch this presentation. Today, I will be exploring the role that altered states of consciousness and out-of-body experiences play in today's modern music scene. In our course on mind, body, and culture, an emphasis has been placed on discussions surrounding the uses for psychedelic drugs, both legal and illegal, across human history. It has always been the case that individuals experience spirituality differently throughout the world. Within communities and even families, people's experiences differ drastically. Some access spirituality through organized religion, like a church, while others seek the wisdom of their ancestors through drug induced visions or guidance from their gods through ritual pilgrimages. And others still find spirituality gyrating on a mixture of meth and bath salts to repetitive music made by a teenager on a computer in his mom's basement. Perhaps they are not all so different. Since this is a course on mind, body, and culture, we're going to be looking at this all through the perspective of mind, body, and culture separately, how raves interact with individuals' mind, body, and culture, those relationships, and those dynamics. As a college student living in San Francisco, you are more likely to go to a rave this weekend than to church. I think that this really says something about the state of spirituality in the modern age, that most people are more likely to access spirituality through a commercial venue than through themselves or through their community without paying a fee. In recent years, rave music has proliferated our culture and completely entered the mainstream. What we know today as rave culture emerged more than 30 years ago as a counterculture movement based around underground festivals hosting innovative, repetitive music and boasting free recreational drug use. The movement has evolved both globally and domestically. It is now marketed as a tourist draw with notable destinations in every corner of the world, from Ibiza, Rimini, and Bali to Johannesburg and coastal Mozambique. Tourism agencies and departments work hard and spend billions of dollars a year developing and marketing their locations as the prime clubbing and raving destinations. It is no wonder so many people rave with the amount of money that we spend on it. Rave culture in the United States originally emerged against the backdrop of a largely racially segregated society and offered an opportunity for a coming together of different values from different people. What began as a counterculture movement based around innovative music and recreational drug use has become a commodified sector of the tourism and leisure industries. Modern raves share many qualities with shamanistic rituals and indigenous religions by providing an outlet for cultural and spiritual expression. For our purposes, we will use the framework of a ritual for understanding raving and clubbing behavior. Historically, rituals have been used in all sorts of tribal religions and ceremonies. Some examples can be found in a king or queen dubbing a knight, a lawyer passing the bar, or Catholics being baptized. Rites are performed by priests, shamans, kings, or other leaders vested with cultural and spiritual power to do so. Rituals are usually formal, significant, symbolic, and complex. Rituals can be broadly classified into three categories: rites of passage, ritual performances, and everyday social rituals. Raves find themselves mixed between these categories as they have both initiatory and performance aspects. Ritual structure is socially constructed and has implicit codes of etiquette formed through social norms of behavior, which participants generally adhere to. An example of this in the modern music scene can be found in group members' drug use. Most view drugs as merely recreational, normalizing and rationalizing their use as okay on special occasions. There are no written rules, but drinking or using drugs in excess is frowned upon and is associated with violent, rude, and sloppy behavior. Implicit behavior regulators can be found in different group members who enforce rules. Unaware to me, many of the basic tenets of rock and roll culture are shared by techno and rave heads. A belief in free living and equality underpin both movements. Rock and rave both incorporate ritual, ceremony, play, and cultural aesthetic. Rock and rave both evoke identity fusion and lasting cooperation amongst participants through awe-inspiring and transformative experiences. People at large can often be left unfulfilled by consumer culture. Raves may offer an escape by providing some, but not all, of the cultural and group bonding experiences that make life meaningful. The distinct Detroit techno, Chicago house, New York garage, and San Francisco grunge music scenes offer different ways to fulfill people's innate desires, their need to rebel and fit in, or their need to be anonymous and a star. Sex and drugs spark exhilarating experiences that are remembered for the rest of the participants' lives, and these memories often become cornerstones in one's identity. Behavior, which would otherwise be taboo, becomes normalized, supported, and even incentivized by the community under certain circumstances. There are certain things you would just never do within or outside of a ritual context. Tattooing an artist on the back of your face only makes sense within a specific cultural context. Rave and rock cultures have created cults that override or can override the prevailing geographic or political boundaries and the allegiances. And these rave and rock cultures can command crowds' dedication, loyalty, and attention by performing actions in the right manner. They turn from being heinous to virtuous acts, whereby sexuality, formerly understood as private and personal, is now public and open practice. Sexual impropriety becomes sexual expression. Drugs are used as sacraments like ayahuasca and peyote, or MDMA and acid. Initiation into the group leads to a process of conversion and commitment. The reasoning for why members are maybe a little bit compulsive in nature might be found in the excitement, anticipation, careful planning, and preparation that is involved in these ritual practices. This brings us to the next point, which is that to understand the question of how this is all possible, we will need to look at a participant's mind while at a rave. Research papers have been published on the factors contributing to the altered states of consciousness experienced by ravers over the past 20 years in the United States and elsewhere. The research has shown that subjective realities may change during states of dream, psychedelic experience, meditation, and trance. The main factors contributing to altered states of consciousness for raves boils down to what researchers have termed the 4 Ds. These are drums, dance, drugs, and sleep deprivation. On their own, any one of these factors could motivate an altered state or out-of-body experience. The combination of the 4 Ds results in a breaking down of ego boundaries. The term liminoid is used for describing the lowering of these boundaries. Liminoid experiences occur when the constraints on personal and social identity are temporarily suspended and identity is opened up to transformational possibilities. Liminoid experiences are not transformational in themselves, but they provide a more likely opportunity and scenario for undergoing transformation. One factor contributing to whether or not a liminoid state results in a transformational experience is the degree of awe that participants feel. Feelings of awe diminish the beholder's sense of self, which has been described as making participants feel small. This small self is more prone to pro-social behavior like sharing, empathizing, and even making financial contributions to charities. The coming together of liminoid experiences, extreme awe, the 4 Ds, and group trance-like states can help to explain why people embody the culture so intensely. Now we're going to talk about how your body reacts in a rave. we touched earlier upon the 4 Ds, which are primary motivating factors for altered states of consciousness and out-of-body experiences while at a rave. Raves place an emphasis on body over mind and beat over lyric. There's a more primal and tribal expression of music and dance than in other classical music styles and genres. Dancing, drugs, sleep deprivation, and drums play a physiological role in an altered state of consciousness. The discussion will now shift towards the cultural elements that are relevant to our discussion on raves, specifically about intergroup dynamics that might arise as a result of taking drugs and dancing on the dance floor with your friends. Ritual liminality, where you ritualize the act of breaking down those ego boundaries, can result in identity fusion, where you identify really strongly with a group for a really long amount of time, and it's a really close group, close knit, and it's associated strongly with organic solidarity, which is a bonding behavior that cavemen and hunter-gatherers used to depend on to stay in their close-knit groups. It's a type of group alignment. So taking these drugs in a group at a rave can increase identity fusion, and that's similar to organic solidarity, whereby traumatic or transformative or strong lived experiences influence their lives. And these can be shared experiences, biology, or shared ideology. Some examples of this would be fighting on the front lines, childbirth, or teammates enduring a loss together, and this can result in enduring cooperation. Communal rituals are said to express existing inner tensions and anxieties, which are resolved through a constrained physical manifestation. Shattering of community, health, human, and the transcendent in order to regenerate a healed self, new social order, or a rejuvenated community. Clubbing is described as a sort of neo-tribal type of bonding behavior. It offers a temporary escape from the stresses of life. Membership to the neo-tribe does not exclude membership from other tribes or communities. Rather, neo-tribalism stresses the easy flow between different identities and circumstances, devoid of long-term moral consequences, whatever goes in playland. Members of a neo-tribe have to be initiated and learn the rules of engagement. They have to follow the code of ethics and know the etiquette required to be a member of a particular group, often highly ritualized as through this exploration of the role that out-of-body experiences and altered states of consciousness play in raves and rituals. We've learned that clubbing has evolved around the idea of spontaneous communitas and a code of equality, freeing people from their normal social roles and instead engaging in a more transcending camaraderie. This is a very holistic and happy way of looking at rave culture. On the other end, it's a hyper-commercialized, kind of nasty, consumer-based tourism. Some people like it, some people don't like it. I think that it's really interesting. It brings up some questions about how do we want to spend our time bonding with other people? How do we want to spend our time connecting with our spiritualities? And it leaves me with the question of who builds my experiences? Is it built by the church? Is it built by me? Is it built by somebody trying to make a buck off my sweat? I don't know. Thank you so much for your time and watching this presentation. I really hope that you enjoy it. And thank you so much.